Hello and welcome. My name is Natalia Zimnach, and I am the founder and CEO of Zimnach Financial Group. Today, we are going to talk about Medicare. So, without further ado, if we just go back to this here is known as Original Medicare. Well, what exactly is it and what does it cover? So, we kind of went over some of the things that Original Medicare covers. Part A, hospital. Part B, doctors, specialists, and outpatient care. Here's the nitty-gritty. Part A does not cost you anything per month. However, and this is a big however, if you end up in the hospital, Part A is not free. Your hospital visit is not 100% covered. Your deductible is $1,632 now in 2024. So what does that really mean? So if I go to the hospital and I'm there for up to 60 days, you see here first 60 days, there is zero coinsurance, but I am subject to this deductible. That means if I have to stay overnight in the hospital anytime between 1 day and up to 60 days, I will be subject to this entire deductible. Keep in mind, this is original Medicare without any additional health plans, without any additional anything. This is what you get that you've been paying into for Medicare and Social Security taxes. This is what you are entitled to when you finally get your Medicare Part A and B. Now, here's the big problematic part. This is the part that a lot of people are concerned about. After 60 days, you have the misfortune of being in the hospital for over this period of time, and you are in the hospital for between 2 to 3 months. It gets serious. It gets very serious and very fast. It then becomes $408 per day as a co-insurance. And then after 91 days, you have $816 per day coinsurance. This is enough to put you into bankruptcy. And so anyone who has original Medicare and does not have an additional Medicare insurance plan, whether Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement or any type of additional Medicare plan, I would urge you to pay attention to this because this is really important. You have days 1 through 20 covered in a skilled nursing facility for $200 a day. That's pretty costly as well. And then after that, you have up to 100 days covered for free by Medicare, but you do have to pay out of your pocket for the first 20 days under original Medicare. When I say care in a retirement facility, this would be community Medicaid, which is a whole other conversation. Hospice is also covered under Part A. And there are some limited home health care services. So usually, again, as I wrote here, typically a nurse comes to check your vitals after you come home from a major health condition. Typically, you're not coming straight from the hospital. Typically, you go from the hospital to a skilled nursing facility to then back home. And then that's when they typically arrange for a medical professional to come in and check your vital. A nurse under Medicare will not take care of you for any long-term care services unless you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid. Now, we're going to talk about what you need to have to qualify for Medicaid later on, but the restrictions and the limitations are rather limiting. Medicare in general, even if you get an additional Medicare plan, does not pay for long-term care. This is a huge misconception, a very big misconception. I really want to clarify this again, or reiterate this. Original Medicare, a Medicare supplement plan, a Medicare Part C or a Medicare Advantage plan does not pay for long-term care services. If you do need home health care, Medicare has no part in covering those costs. These are massive, massive costs that are unfortunately either going to have to come out of your pocket Or you can protect yourself by purchasing a long-term care policy, and that's something that you should consider at any age. Personally, I purchased mine in my 20s. I have a lot of clients in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s. It's so inexpensive the younger you are, and as many of you are seeing today and noticing, long-term care is an epidemic. It's something that is not spoken about, and we need to talk about it because it is a growing concern for many people, for many families. If it's truly something that is a concern of yours, don't wait until you're retiring, until you're going on Medicare to look into this. Look into it now. The younger you are, the better. Now we've got Part B. So Part B costs, the standard cost, that's why I've got an asterisk here. The standard cost, the typical cost for a Part B prescription drug plan is about $174.70 per month. This is at the time of this recording in 2024. So, what does $174.70 a month get you? Well, for $174.70 per month, you get Part B, which covers 80% of your doctors, specialists, clinical visits, outpatient ambulance, mental health, durable medical equipment, second opinions, MRI, CAT scan, EKG, anything that is outpatient that is not covered by Part A is covered by Part B. However, Part B has an annual deductible of $240 per year, and Part B only covers about 80% of your medical costs. But we're going to dive a little deeper into what this 80% really means, because it's not a true 80%. So, we know what Part B is, but now let's talk about this little asterisk. The asterisk is your Medicare premium. So essentially, if you are single, which is this column here, or if you are married, this is the maximum income limit for 2024 that you could pay the $174.70 per month. So let's talk about this IRMAA here, IRMAA. It's the Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount by Medicare. It's actually a tax that's added on. Many people don't know about this, which again is why I, as a financial planner, like to tie all of this in to the conversation surrounding Medicare, Social Security. If you have, let's say, 1.5 million, a million, 750,000, 800,000 in retirement accounts, and you're growing that money, all of these things are so relevant to Medicare and to retiring as a whole, because if you have over 103,000 as a single, or if you are earning over 206,000 as a married couple, you will then be subject to an additional premium, this plus this, on top of this $174.70 per month. So now hear me out. If you are earning, let's say, $500,000 because perhaps you get an inheritance, perhaps you're still working or your spouse is still working, maybe you have a pension, maybe you started collecting Social Security, but your spouse is still working. So you've got Social Security, a pension, your spouse's income, and you're taking distributions on an inheritance, and maybe you started taking some money from your retirement plan. And your income goes to, let's say, jointly 450, 550,000. Well, you can kiss this 174.70 per month goodbye, because your new Medicare premium is going to be that plus this plus this per person per year. Now, the good news is this information here is reset on an annual basis. That means when you go to file your new tax returns for the following year, the IRS will look at what your new income amount is. So maybe you sold a property, maybe it was a one-time distribution. So this is Irma. She isn't pretty. Unfortunately, I wish I had better news, but this is so important to know about in terms of original Medicare and how the system works, what some of the costs are. So let's go back to this 20% thing. So original Medicare only covers services that are deemed medically necessary by a doctor and by CMS. This is true. And in addition, Part B only covers 80%. But what does this really mean? Well, Medicare has their own guidelines, right? Medicare will tell you how much they're going to cover for a certain service, and that's going to be their total coverage cost. Now, I'm going to give a very extreme example. Take what I'm saying, please, with a grain of salt. Again, this is a very extreme example, but this is how original Medicare with no insurance plan, no additional insurance plan works. Say Medicare covers 80% up to $150 for a certain type of specialist. And say that same specialist charges $200 for a visit. Pretty inexpensive in 2024, but easy math. $150, 80% of that is $110. Now the doctor's cash price is $200. So if Medicare is only going to cover 80% up to a maximum of $150, that's $110. $200 is what the doctor wants. Medicare covers $110 of that. We get stuck with the $90 bill. Again, this is a very extreme example. This won't be an everyday occurrence. More than likely, you'll just have an additional bill here, a bill there. But Medicare Part B only covers 80% of your doctor's visits and your Part B outpatient costs, and you are responsible for the remaining 20%. Now, granted, that 20% may not always equal 20%. It could be more, could be less. Now, the big concerns are not just the Part B costs, but how do we fill in the gaps? How do we cover the costs of Part A, which again, if we go back to Part A for a minute, these costs are very concerning to most clients. And then, these are not to be looked over either, because these costs can get pretty expensive, especially if you're going for chiropractor, for follow-up visits, for second opinions, chemotherapy. All of these things can get incredibly costly. So what are some of the ways that I can fill in the Part A hospital costs and the Part B 20% gap?